Sonic Explorers, welcome back for another CirdecSongs interview. I am so glad you've chosen to hang out with me today. Before I get going, as always, I please ask you to hit that like button and subscribe. Be sure to touch that notification bell so you know when I do something new, because I'm trying to get more and more into doing that kind of thing. If this is a repeat visit for you, I appreciate you coming back and hanging out. If this is your first visit, you chose a fantastic day because I have a fantastic band for you. They are based in Cincinnati. They are a duo, and I'm going to explain why that seems a little odd, but wonderful at the same time. Uh, I learned about them a few years ago, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. They are Kate Wakefield, and they are Daisy, and they are Lung. How are we doing today, guys?
Really good. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I have no complaints. Everything is all well and good. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. I know you guys are busy. Let's dive right in. Uh, you're relatively new to me in that I learned about you at Everybody's Records in Cincinnati uh, almost 4 years ago. So, what I like to do when I go to record stores in other towns is introduce me to some local bands, so to speak. And I already knew the National. I love the National, but then they said, "Well, you have you tried Lung?" No, I have not. So, yeah, tell me about Lung. So I'm going to ask you. Tell me about Lung. Tell me the story of your musical lives.
Do you want to start with this one, or how do we do this? What is
Um,
the story of our musical lives? Uh,
uh, you start.
okay, I'll start. Well, we're both musicians. We both have always,
Allegedly.
yeah, allegedly musicians. Um, we both had different projects and different like bands and things, and then we were friends in the scene before we decided to play music together. And yeah, I guested on a live set with Daisy's other band, Babe Rage, which was this really heavy, like dark, loud, feminist, like screamy project that was awesome. Um,
Okay.
they were so cool. And before then, my projects had been like more looped based, like lots of looped cellos and layers, and like and I still like we still use loops in Lung, but like guesting with them was just like this really fun release and kind of like this eye-opening moment of like, ooh, my cello can be heavier. Like this could be fun. And um I forget exactly how it ended up happening, but like maybe 5 or 6 months later after that, we just were like casually like, oh, let's just play some music together and see what it's like. And we wrote some songs really quick. And then we stopped playing for like another 6 months. And then Daisy called and was like, hey, you want to do that? And then
I like how you always point out that detail.
I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny. Like, I like that kind of information with bands. Like, I feel like sometimes you think that like a band just starts and there it is, it's going. But it's always funny to me that like, yeah,
Well, I think part of it was the first time we tried to start, there were like more people involved. And it ended up being just two of us. It was like that point we tried to do with more people. And then the two-person version sort of started at once and then never stopped.
yeah,
And chemistry is chemistry. When you've got something good going, you realize what it is, and I would imagine you get back to it sooner or later.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking of which, and this is the part I love. I mean, most people they get together and say, "Let's form a band." We'll have two guitar players and a keyboard player and a bassist and a drummer, and one or more of us will sing. I'm looking at cello and drums right now. How did that become the right idea for you? Where did that come from?
I mean, just anytime we tried to have someone else play, it sounded bad. Like we tried to have a bass player and it muddied up with the cello. We tried with guitar and it kind of like muddied up the high part of the cello and it kind of clashed. And I don't know. Just every time we try to play with other people, it just sounds like us plus another person. It doesn't sound like right, you know?
That makes sense. That makes sense, and it's plenty heavy. Just like Kate said, it is plenty heavy. And I've heard cellos in rock bands before. Whether it was Yellow or Apocalyptica or that kind of thing. But now you've mentioned loops. So for I'm a guitar player allegedly. Speaking of allegedly, I'm definitely an alleged guitar player. But as an Adrian Belew fanatic, I love loops and what have you. How did you incorporate loops into your sound?
We initially didn't like for a while. Lung was just cello, drums, and voice, just everything sort of as it is. But I think it was like during 2020 when everything sort of shut down and we had more time to like go into our sound and like experiment and play without the pressure of doing a bunch of live shows. It was during that time that we were like, because I had always written it off as something that like, oh, that would be too hard to do with like live drums, you know what I mean?
Or,
And we just started being like, well, maybe we could do that. Maybe that could be neat. So with the loop pedal, basically like it's not for every single song or anything, but for some songs we'll add like vocal loops that'll make it a little more like what you'd hear on our record, which is like a harmony bomb, you know? Like we love adding harmonies to our recorded music. So like it just basically makes it so that it fills out the tone even more, you know?
Sometimes extra cello.
nice. And it
We're
works.
working on cello loops now, and that's going to be fun.
That does sound like fun.
Story.
And I love a good harmony bomb. So they're working out nicely. Daisy, you can't get away. Define Daisy's drum sound. How do you feel? How do you define your approach to drums?
I mostly haven't played drums in my life, so I just try to play drums the way that I want drummers to play, which is really hard and simple. With some
kind of a John Bonham type approach.
Yeah, but not as good. Like less good.
I don't know. It was working for
I
me.
think I didn't get enough credit for how like he was a strong player, even though he could play simply.
Makes
I
sense.
didn't play simply. I'm not that strong.
Fair enough.
You're freaking awesome.
Can I tell my Blue lemon drop story?
Sure.
I had to serve Adrian Blue lemon drops at my job.
Oh, not bad. He does like his lemon drop martinis.
He does, and he actually, yeah, I had to take it to his dressing room in the heat of the summer, and I left it there, and then he came to the bar and asked for more, and he was super nice.
Nice. And he's a very nice human being. Dare I say it? We're friends now. He's my hero, and you would know that if you were in my living room where the big poster is and all the King Crimson stuff. But we'll do a house tour some other time.
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, that nice. He's awesome. Super nice.
Yeah, just such a talent, and having Julie with him now, who's another, she's no slouch herself as a bass player. that really makes things work out nicely. I have an unholy obsession with a British jazz trio called Go-Go Penguin, and one of the things I like to talk about all the time is for piano, bass, and drums, they absolutely fill up a mix. I mean, it's flooded. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. And I thought the exact same thing about you guys. So be studio nerds for me a second and tell me how you were able to, as we say on The Simpsons, how do you embiggen your sound the way you do?
Embiggen. Well, we embiggen. I think it's like, well, are you talking about like live or in the studio or?
Either, both. Let's start with the studio and work our way out.
The studio, we have a lot of fun filling out the tone, like doubling the cello, because like when it's live, I feel like the sheer volume that we get from our two amps is like enough to really just like hit people in the chest and the gut and just sort of like fill up the space. But like when it's recorded, I think that our recordings benefit from like doubling the cello track with like a slightly different tone, or like maybe adding like a very, very low in the mix bass cello track that like you don't really hear, but it just sort of like fills it out, you know? And then also we're very like, Daisy actually has really good ears for tone. So Daisy and John Hoffman, our engineer, like they're always really instrumental in like helping create like rich bassy but still driving tones. And I of course have opinions of, oh, that's cool, oh, not that, but they're really good at like finding it.
We'll like do like 8 different amps at once and record them all and figure out what's up, like play with the different timbres and stuff.
So it's almost like a wall of sound that you've got going there.
Right.
Well, we recorded our last record that'll be released at some point in the next year or so. We just recorded one in this Masonic lodge that's like this 3-story giant place, right? and we had all these amps scattered throughout. And so whenever we were tracking, it was like the building was like shaking, and it felt really fun. It was like, ah,
So you become Dinosaur Junior. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, or yeah, and Jucifer. It's light bulb.
That's what JR. That's what the juniors do. Dinosaur Jucifer.
Yeah.
See?
We're together.
That'd be awesome.
And we're learning things. And I'm going to encourage all of our viewers to please go and check your music out and comment on it, because if they're blown away like I was blown away, then we're gonna build you a serious fanship and put you in arenas and what have you. But don't be in a hurry. I like small rooms, but I love a tiny room. Speaking of a tiny room, now how does your sound translate when you hit the stage? Because there's things you can't control in there. So, what are some of your tricks there?
I mean, we try to like practice for everything and not suck, but usually we just kind of go for it. Live is a little more of an uncontrollable animal.
Yeah, I'd say like the difference with live is that you can like really taste every word differently every night and like connect to whatever crowd is there. Like I definitely feel like our energy varies depending on like the vibe of the room. I mean, we'll always like give it 100% or whatever, but like there's just different flavors of crowds and like different vibes. And so like, I mean, we played Rat City Recon in Seattle, which was freaking cool. And it was this tinier room that we were in, and like it was packed, and it just felt kind of like insane. And so that had a different sort of feel, like this chaotic, magical feel, versus like when we played in a theater with Max Sabbath, which felt a little more like a theater performance. It felt a little more like we were in it in that way. So I think like, yeah, we always give it 100%, but it always does change slightly based on like who's all there and what the vibe is.
Yeah,
makes sense. I'm a big fan of a band called Bent Knee. Very
we love them.
recognition. I went to one of their shows at a place called Shuba's here in Chicago, and that was one of the first times that energy to me was tangible. I mean, it came off the stage, which is normal for them because they're just all over the place, and I love them for that. But then it came back from the audience, and I was right next to Courtney and her keyboards, and we're friendly now. And I kind of looked at her, and she looked at me, and we knew what we were discussing because she looked and went, "I know." It just kind of kept going back and forth. Who are you playing for? Who are you hoping to get that kind of energy from when you hit the stage?
Everybody. Our music's for anyone who it resonates with. That's it. We have a really wide range of people who listen to our stuff. We joke that we're like a good father-daughter band because like a lot of like older dudes will come with their daughters and they'll both like us, and like we're just sort of
we're basically Taylor Swift.
We're weirdos. We're for the weirdos who, yeah, we're a weirdo band. Oh, really quick though, funny story about Bent Knee. We were driving on the road. We were in the middle of, I don't know, Utah.
We were in Utah, and there was. Can I say this?
Yeah, you can say it. You can say it.
We went to this like lonely ass gas station in the middle of nowhere, and like
desolate.
Like, yeah, it was like from a movie. And guess who pulls up next to us?
What are the odds?
Bent Knee. And it was just really funny because we hadn't seen them in a minute, and you don't really expect to like actually literally have your vans meet at a empty gas station in the middle of nowhere.
To be fair, the odds are pretty good considering people drive from Denver to Salt Lake City a lot. There's like one road and like 4 gas stations.
I don't know.
Those are actually pretty high odds.
High odds for being.
It's still nice. It's still funny. It was still totally weird.
That is wild. Have you guys worked together?
No, we just occasionally share shows and we're buds. Well, I really respect that they do.
Yeah, we played with them a couple times. We played with Courtney solo once. I don't know. They're just awesome. Their band rules.
Courtney Swain's solo project. Have you heard it?
Oh yeah. I've heard a couple of them.
Beautiful.
She is. She's what we call a talent.
It's like a winter time. Huh?
Well, that's all right. Now I'm about to say I've heard her a couple of times, a couple of her solo projects, and she's what we call a talent out there these days. But see, now we need a piano from Courtney and a cello bit, and of course our drummer over here. So let's set that up. let's get that.
Well, We can write her letters. Let her know we're interested.
Hey, I'll just text her.
Text her right now. Right now.
Hey, no, I can't do that. I'll do it after. It would be rude to do it right now. And I found, you're talking about how desolate it is. I found the middle of nowhere. It was a stretch of I-50 from Reno to the Utah border, which is about where you were talking about. And this was in the mid '90s. Before I had a cell phone. When I see like 3 cars and 2 buildings over 4 hours, and I'm just freaked out. Oh God, what if we break down out of here? What am I going to do? So I can understand that. How much traveling have you guys gotten to do as a group?
A lot.
Yeah, we tour a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty much after our first show that like I jokingly said to Daisy, and it was like 2016, and I was like, we should just do this all the time. We should quit our jobs and do this all the time. And the next day, Daisy was like, are you serious? Because like we could record a little EP and like put it in some envelopes and tour around. So then like a couple months later, we were doing like two-month tours, and like we did about 100 dates our first year. And yeah, we've been on the road a lot. It's been really fun.
Yeah, you mentioned that Reno drive, and we literally did that 3 times last year. Like, I know, as soon as you said that, I was like, I know exactly.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out thinking about it. So I'm just like,
no. It's pretty.
Oh, it's very pretty. It's incredibly pretty. It just, it just wigs me out. That's how I did. I live in a very large city right now. I'm kind of used to seeing things and people.
Just you and the aliens.
Yeah. Now, if I wind up at Area 51 for some reason, okay, that's just the way it goes. How did I get to Nevada? It's got to be easier, I would hope, traveling because there's 2 of you. And I don't know if you bring a sound person with you or not, but it's got to be easier in terms of daily demands, egos, and what have you, as opposed to having 4 or 5 people crammed into a van. Tell us more about the advantages of just touring as a duo.
Well, so we're actually lucky we do get to travel with our band visual artist, who's done all of our like videos. Her name's Rochelle Kaplan. She does our videos. She designs our shirts and designs our album covers. Anyway, so it's actually 3 of us, but it's kind of fun because we're like a little weird, band family. Like, it's just a good time. And I definitely do think that like I have friends who are in larger bands who tell me about their touring experiences, and like sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, like we never get to do what I want to do, or like we're always staying at the bar till 4 a.m. because this person wants to be here till that time. And it's like we just have a nice routine, and we all like have a healthy respect for each other and a love for what we do. So I think everyone should be in a 2-piece band with a band artist. Also,
everyone should do what we do. Do exactly what we do.
Play a cello. Just grab a cello.
Exactly.
Why not?
We'll call you Lung the precedent. This is what you need to do.
We're gonna break
I'm one of the old guys who loves you because I'm almost 60, 57, almost 60, whatever. But when I was younger and I first started playing, and I was saying to a friend of mine, I have one friend who's been in an MTV video in St. Louis, and I was saying I would love to go out on the road for 6 months with a band, and he said, 6 months? Why don't you try 2 weeks? because you're not. I was already married. He said, now imagine being married to 4 or 5 people and being crammed in to a van, day in and day out, having to deal with everybody's little foibles. This guy clips his toenails. That guy doesn't wash regularly enough. That kind of thing. Have you had any? Not between you two. have you had any other nightmare band type scenarios that kind of almost put you off touring?
Yeah.
One time we were playing a set, this is a long time ago, for a benefit where no one showed, and at the end they were like bribing people to come. And
this was in St. Louis.
And my favorite thing about it was we got there and I was like, okay, well at least the band's got each other's backs. I'm gonna watch every set. Like, so I was up there in the front row, like, yeah. And we start playing because we were last, and everyone's loading out their gear. And I was like, oh.
I've seen that.
Those moments sort of have to be like.
You meant like bands we've been in. We can also just talk shit about each other.
Bands we've been in with touring. Oh,
you can talk about whoever you want to. I was giving you an out.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
What's the most annoying thing about touring with me?
with
Let's
you,
get this spicy. Let's get this spicy.
what's the most annoying thing about touring with Daisy?
Yeah.
Remember, I didn't ask for this.
Terrible.
Actually, I really don't like that you don't silence your cell phone in the mornings sometimes. That really bugs me. Because, like, I'll be, like, asleep fucking finally. And it'll be like, "Vroom, vroom," and I'm like,
That is silent.
no, it's vibrate. Vibrate is not silent. You can literally, like, feel it in the air. And then I'm like, ugh.
Oh, that never wakes me up.
I mean, so, yeah, I know it doesn't wake you up. Wakes me up.
What is the most annoying thing about it?
Oh, a lot. I know. I mean, you just, yeah. Whatever.
And,
Go
and
for it.
that's when the fight started.
I know. There's so many things that are annoying about touring with me. One being that for the first couple tours I was making my own sauerkraut in the van.
Let me tell this story.
Oh,
This is important because this
Gut
is
health.
okay.
this is good.
So I don't remember how this started. I think it started from our friend Kelly Cornett. But Kate was like, "Hey, I think I can make sauerkraut in the van," and we were like, "That's a really good idea, but it will spill because things just spill. That's how it goes." And Kate was like, "No, it'll be fine," and it spills almost instantly. Almost instantly, the van smells like sauerkraut, like crazy, and we all get in this big fight about it. And it was just like, then I think you were like, "I'm not going to do that again," but then you had secret
Snuck it
sauerkraut.
on. I
So
snuck-
she
I
put
snuck in
sauerkraut. She put sauerkraut in her bag, which then it again.
No, but I wrapped it in pantyhose and then a plastic bag and then another plastic bag and then another plastic bag and then more pantyhose. Like it was like an operation.
And then it still burst all over her.
Yeah, and then it was bad.
And then
Since
she
then,
smelled
we
like
have not
sauerkraut.
traveled with sauerkraut, but we do make band kvass. That's like
We haven't done that in a while.
We haven't done that in a while, but we've done it.
Kvass was easier.
Yeah, it won't spill and it doesn't smell weird.
That's
weird.
reasonable because I'm still stuck on who makes sauerkraut in a van. Why?
I do.
She does. I obviously what?
But that's not the most annoying thing. There's more annoying things than that.
No, that's pretty bad.
Okay.
But still, the question begs: from where does that idea emerge? You know what this van needs?
Gut health. That's where it emerged. I was like, oh, when you're on the
Okay.
road, you need good gut health. You got to take a number 2. And so, yeah, sauerkraut keeps you regular.
Fair enough.
I wish that we could travel with it without it spilling everywhere and smelling bad, but we can't.
So no
we
skyline.
We're fine.
And kimchi.
Yogurt and kimchi. But the thing is, the rule with a fermented vegetable like that is we all agree to it and we eat it all that one day. We just knock it out.
That makes sense.
You're from the Midwest too. You know how a lot of healthy items at grocery stores in the rural area, they will not be sold.
Oh, yeah.
If you shop the sales section at grocery stores at the right time, you can get on tour. Excuse me. You can get vegetables really cheap.
Yeah.
And kimchi is an item that does not, if you're in Iowa, not necessarily the most well-selling item. Sometimes you get a giant jar of kimchi for nothing, and then we all eat it. And
Huh. Interesting.
Have kimchi all over the van.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Although
explode.
one time
it did explode one time.
We bought kimchi in Denver, and we drove over the Eisenhower Pass, where you go 11,000 feet in the air or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That tunnel. And Rochelle opened the kimchi in the tunnel, and it exploded.
Oh.
The altitude pressure.
Yeah, I say so much pressure.
And clean out the whole van in front of a bunch
of
ski people in fancy coats. It was amazing.
Excuse me, you've got something on your coat. What is that? That's just kimchi. It's okay. So this is not the time to give you you're not traveling with Skyline chili or anything with that. You're going with
vegetables, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Skyline chili powder though to Europe.
Yeah.
Because our friend set up some shows for us who's from here. And we're like, dude, do you need anything? He's like, actually, yes. Can you get me 20 packets of Skyline chili powder? And we were like, yes, we can.
Nice.
Not care. We cared.
It was a good experience. I had lunch there. It was a very, very good experience. Let's talk about your new project before I go completely off the rails, which I'm notorious for. You put out a new, I'm going to call it an LP, but you actually split it with another band. And I have to look down because I'm going to get this wrong. You put this out with, and I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually see it. Hang on a second here. Here we are. Yep. Captain Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, which is another great name for a band. This is not the first time that you split an album with someone? You know, you're on one side, they're on the other side. Where did that idea come from?
I think it's something that used to happen a little bit more like 20 or 30 years ago. I always just thought it was kind of an interesting way to like if you had like 6 or 7 songs that didn't fit anywhere else, you can kind of do that. Like you can do a split 7-inch, but that always seemed too short. I don't know. It's just an interesting way to kind of recontextualize songs in a different format, you know, expose a band to different audiences.
Kind of like a dual EP type thing. Is that what we were going for?
Yeah, but just a little bit longer because the EP always feels too short for that. It just feels like 2 singles. Like a split LP is a little more. You can get into some weird areas you wouldn't normally get into.
Like for us, especially this recent one, it was cool to put on some songs that had been just like in the background for a long time. Like a couple of those songs are from like 2017 or 18. Like they're pretty old, and then other ones were like just written but didn't quite fit anywhere else. And so they all somehow, like, our side of things sort of fit together in a surprising but fun way. So yeah, and then it's always cool to put out an album with friends. You know, like Skirt, the first band that we put an LP out with. They're our good buds. They're from Dayton. They're awesome people. And Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, we've known them such a long time, and we've played so many great shows with them in Wisconsin and now up and down the West Coast. They're good people too. So it's like an excuse to have a party with your friends, you know?
Exactly.
I like that. I like that idea a lot. And I just lost my train of thought, but it'll come back to me again. It'll be all right. What are your favorite tunes to play right now? What do you enjoy getting on stage and ripping through?
All of them? I don't know. I couldn't really pick one.
It's like picking your favorite child sometimes, I know.
It is, and to
It's
be
easier
real,
than
I think
picking
like
your favorite child.
my favorite thing to play are the things that we just
Harder.
wrote, but we're trying not to play what we just wrote to sort of like, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get in a bad habit where we'll like play a set that's all new songs, and everybody will be like, "That was cool, but
where can I hear it?" And you're like, nowhere. Yeah,
Well, that's
but
gotta,
from our set right now, I always really like playing a song that we have called Wall. It's just like, it just like amps up the energy really quickly. It's really fun. What about you?
I can't pick.
What's your least favorite song that we play? Ha!
ooh, now there's a good question.
I don't think all the ones we're playing right now. I'm into.
Yeah. You like all your children equally?
No, I don't. I definitely there's some I like better than others. I just can't think of like if we really don't like playing it, we just stop.
True.
I think we've kind of gotten to the point where like all the ones we play now are ones we really like playing, and the ones that are kind of like B minus C plus,
we voted off the island
because some songs don't work live that work on a record, and vice versa. Like Wall is an awesome song, but like it didn't work on like 3 records, and then we put it on the split with Skirt, you know. And
Makes sense. I mean, I look at a lot of bands sympathetically because I'm sure a lot of them look at the set list and go, "Ah, here we go. We got to play this tune now because it's the popular one," and that has to get old after a while. I would imagine. I mean, how many times can you play so and so before it kind of loses its emotional impact for you?
I don't know if something's really good. I feel like if you get into like the zone of it, if you kind of get into the headspace of it, it's still good. Like it's very rare that like there are at least 3 songs in our set that we have played well over 500 times. Just
so you've got it memorized then, yeah.
And I still like them. Like I feel like it can work. It's just a state of mind, and like also a respect for the audience. Like if the audience like them connecting with it is like a part of the life of the song, you know. And that's in and of itself is cool.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm asking you more as a music fan now than as a band because I've had arguments with people about this all the time. Discussions. We've had discourse about bands that have 20-year-old hits and then they put out a new record and people get upset because the band focuses more on the new record than they do the 20-year-old hits. And the argument is, give the people what they want. And I heard someone counter with, the people don't know what they want. They want what they know. So where do you kind of fall as music fans in that particular scale? Would you rather hear the old material, or are you happy when they play new stuff?
I like when people do something that we do that I think is fun. That we play like a smattering of songs from every album we've released. Like, sometimes it'll lean heavier towards a newer album, or but I think if I was going to see like Tori Amos, which I have a million times, something
Lucky.
that she does is she plays like firstly her sets they go on forever. It's incredible. But like she plays all things from all of her albums, and she plays stuff from her new ones and her old ones, and I like when it's like sort of a mix of everything personally. Like, I would like to hear an artist's favorite songs from all their records. Like whatever, like not even necessarily the hits, but if someone on tour could be like, hey, just so y'all know, these are my favorite songs from each of the records, and I'm gonna just have the night be like my favorite freaking songs from this whole discography. I think that would be really cool. But at the end of the day, whatever an artist wants to play, if they are into it and they deliver it and communicate it and don't seem bored, I'm happy.
Yeah,
Makes
it's
sense.
definitely like I've seen some shows where people did almost all new stuff, or they did like radically different versions of songs. And when it works, it really works. But like, not everybody's gonna want that. Sometimes people are gonna want like the hits, which is fine too.
Also, I feel like, yeah, I mean, it's like a different kind of music listener who's going to see like people who they are just going for the hit, versus like you or maybe us who like we like underground music, we like music, just all people who are passionate about like all of it, and like
Right.
music discovery versus like, oh, this song makes me think of this time I drove down the road one time, like 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 nostalgia songs,
Sure, sure.
like I like
Well,
Every Day is a Winding Road, but if I was gonna go see Sheryl Crow, I'd also want to see her just like tear up some new stuff too. You know?
I think the discussion started with me. Well, the latest discussion started because I saw Peter Gabriel a few months ago. It's my last arena gig. I'm retired now. I've seen Tool. I've seen Radiohead. Now I've seen Peter Gabriel. I'm done. So I'm
How was Tool?
Tool was awesome. They're always just positively amazing. I mean, we could do a sidebar on that for a while between the light shows and the virtuosity. They're just absolutely mind blowing. But I don't need to do that again because I don't like big rooms. But when I saw Peter, he basically played the new record, and that was he kind of front loaded it, and then he snuck in hits here and there, and I was fine with it. I went home and I was like, okay, this was great. I've had my experience, but people online, and you know how that goes with people online. They were, why do you play all this new stuff all the time? Why couldn't I hear this hit or the other thing? Like, come on, man. So I was just curious to see where you guys fell in that particular spectrum.
I
And
think it's a
sooner,
give and take, but I think also like, okay, I didn't care about Tool at all until I saw them live with the Lateralis is the one where they had the trapeze artists, right, on
yeah,
stage.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah,
and like that show was almost all Lateralis, like, and I thought it was great. That's still one of the best concerts I've ever seen, and I was a fan of that band from that point on. And like that's an example of like I didn't know, I knew a couple of hits before that, but like they mostly played new stuff, and it was amazing. So sometimes it really works. I think people are just people need to be bluntly. If you want my actual opinion, people need to be open to new experiences.
Yeah, people need to, like
Yeah,
they're buying the same grocery list every day at the store. Buy a different yogurt,
buy some kimchi.
would it kill you?
Huh?
Would it kill you to change up the yogurt every now and then? I
As
mean,
long as it's not the Panera lemonade, I think we're okay.
that's what I would think. Yeah, that's what I would think. What are your ambitions as a band? I mean, I talked about putting you in an arena someplace, but what do you want to do from this point forward?
Be awesome and keep doing it.
I really like, I don't know, something that we both we share a drive for like practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing and getting it like as good as we can and then getting it better than so that's always one of the things that I think we strive for as a band is just like never be comfortable, never be like, oh, it's good enough, like to always be writing more and like coming up with different ideas that we both are into. And then like, I mean, I would love it. It is sort of like our job right now, kind of. I mean, we do travel around a lot and like we make it work. I would like it so that our music got to any weirdo who would resonate with it. Like I would like it if it were you know, I I would like I'd like to keep doing what we do and then maybe get a wider audience, which is always the mystery as a DIY artist of like how do you get your music to, all the people that would dig it, that
Right.
you can connect with. So that's sort of the project right now. What do you think?
I don't know. I think like wider fame is enjoyed by a band like Tool or Radiohead. It sort of like doesn't really exist for rock bands anymore. And to the degree it does, like we've had friends who like went to that level of fame or like started to get to that level of fame and their band either fell apart or started to suck or like they went crazy. And it's just kind of like fame doesn't really seem like a thing in and of itself to be like, that seems like success. Like success seems like driving around and people appreciating it. And like, if people want to show up and give us money, that's cool too. That definitely helps make it happen. But it's like, we're going to make music no matter what. And like, if people want to be involved, that's awesome. And that's definitely part of the ambition, as Kate said, to have, as many weirdos here as possible. Like, I don't think we're going to be Taylor Swift or Tool.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna be Taylor Swift, but I won't complain if my health insurance is paid by it someday.
Yeah,
That I find is more than reasonable, I think.
Yeah, it's like attainable goals,
Yeah,
like
health insurance and a retirement plan always,
yeah,
always a plus. Hence, 25 years in civil service, but that's not important important right now.
yeah.
One of the things I love about, let's call it the Bandcamp era, is pretty much what you're talking about. A lot of the superficiality has been stripped away, and if I'm a fan of your band, it's because I know about you from Bandcamp, which means the community is smaller but more passionate. So how easy is it for you to connect with those people, and how hard is it for you to connect with people who might not know your music at first? Or you can reverse the question. So, or you can reverse the question: is it harder to connect with people who know you better?
I'd say both are tricky in different ways because, like, I mean, even Bandcamp to a degree is like, as much as it's my favorite out of any of them, there's still like, a degree of gatekeeping of who gets what editorial and whatever. Like, it's not as like completely equitable as it's purported to be. Spotify is obviously an order of magnitude worse. So like, part of it is just the sheer volume. Like, as much as there's equity and like a little bit less pretense, it's also like literally like 4 million bands are all fighting for attention,
Yeah.
Which like, I don't see it that way. Like, I see it more as like, I'm excited about these, like, but people only have so much attention and they tend to give their attention to the stuff that gets, it's sort of like presented to them, whether it be through a playlist or, Pitchfork or whatever, however people find out about music go. But like, it also means it kind of doesn't matter. Like, you're just doing it and it's gonna, land how it lands. That is what it is.
I feel like we definitely like make the most friends and make the most like connections with people who appreciate what we do when we're playing shows. Like, that's definitely, I feel like, our best medium for like, you literally get to meet people, you get to talk to them and learn about what they're into, and then I don't know, when there's a connection there, it just is it's something kind of special. And so yeah, I like when things are just like in person, someone finds out about you that way. Like, and like a lot of times people will come to our shows and not know us at all, but then they'll see our live set and be like, oh, that was cool. Like you'll connect and resonate, and
Right.
and then we'll see him at the next show like a year later, and it's
I think it's definitely a lot more rewarding to connect with people one-on-one live.
Because it's like, I mean, we've been doing this for, I don't know, 5 or 6 million years now at this point, and it's like we do have legitimate friends dotted all over the country. It's really cool, whether it's like bands or people who just come out or people who like kindly put us up. It's a neat thing.
Which is nice. And you talked about dads and daughters coming to shows being generational. You had my attention when I first heard you play. I'm like, okay, these guys are cool. These guys are cool. And then you up and covered Bowie on me.
Yeah.
When you said I'm afraid of Americans, like, okay, well, I love these guys now. That's just all there is to it. Um, how did you decide to cover that particular tune? Because when you say Bowie, people get tons of ideas in their head. And you went with "I'm Afraid of Americans," which is a
Ooh.
great tune. What led you down that path?
Well, firstly, like, my dad is one of the kinds of dads, but when I was a kid, would like be like, Kate, let's drive around. I'm gonna play you this whole album, and I'm gonna point out all the good stuff, and we're gonna listen to it. And so it was like bonding time with my dad, or like, sit and listen to a Laurie Anderson record. But David Bowie is one of my dad's favorites, and we would always listen through all of that discography when I was a kid. And I remember when I was little thinking that that was the coolest and most terrifying song ever, because I was like, this is true. It was like during the Bush era. I was like, oh my God, I am afraid of Americans. I feel you, David Bowie. And anyway, the reason we ended up covering it, we were playing a New Year's Eve show, and at the New Year's Eve show, each band was tasked with like covering a song that they love by an artist who passed that year. And we initially tried Prince, which, oh my God, no one should ever cover Prince. Like, Prince is just Prince. Leave Prince alone. Like, let Prince do Prince, and everybody else just stop.
No argument from me.
Yeah, we tried, and it was just like, ooh. Oh, you don't want to hear me sing Let's Go. It's just bad. It was bad. Ooh. And then I was like, well, what about this song? And so because David Bowie had also died that year, and that was one of my favorite songs as a kid. So we played it live, and then we were like, this is cool. We should throw it on the record.
And you did a fine job with it. I was just thinking about covering Prince, because Steven Wilson covering "Sign of the Times." I'm like, okay. Love Steven Wilson, love Prince. I don't know, man.
It's hard. It's sort of like some artists are too unique. They're two themselves. Like, they're themselves, and their music is so intertwined that like it just doesn't work to separate it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of which, let us play a little game, and then I'll let you escape. I like to play a little game called My Favorites Favorites, where I let some of my favorite musicians discuss some of their favorite musicians. So no categories, no stipulations. You just go ahead and rattle off of some of the people who have influenced you, or bands and artists you just can't do without.
You want to start?
No, you start.
Well, a band that we both universally love, that we talked about on a different podcast recently, so it's fresh in my mind. Smart Went Crazy. They're amazing. They have this like really, really dark record that Daisy introduced me to, like, when we first started as a band. And they also have a cello player, but it's like the cellist plays in such a different, cool way. So yeah, I freaking love them. I also, as I said, I love Tori Amos. She can do no wrong.
Oh yeah.
Suzanne Vega, Bjork, PJ Harvey. What about you? Oh, well, no, you go.
No, you go ahead. I can't think of anybody.
More Jewelry out of Philly is a really
That's a new one.
What?
I would say that's a new one for me. I've heard of I love the other ones, because you were describing my college rock experience before. But
well,
More Jewelry is More Mother and
Mental Jewelry together.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I think it's spelled Moor Jewelry, I think.
Okay.
And the album True Opera is just so good. It's like this heavy hitting, like, I found out later that it was all improvised, which is insane because the words are so good. But yeah, that's like, as far as like recent albums that have hit me and stuck with me, that's one that's like, yeah, that's gonna like stay in my favorites for a long time.
Cool.
What about you?
Recently or in
just
general?
In general?
Yeah, whatever you like.
I always draw a blank when we talk about stuff. It's like I suddenly can't think of any bands at all.
I know it's hard.
Or I say something.
That's why I always say Tori Amos. I'm like, I know I love her.
Well, while you think, Daisy, I have to tell Kate that she had the coolest dad ever. Wanting to.
My dad is awesome.
To go around. I tried doing that with my daughter, and it was hit and miss. Though one day at the end of a road trip, I was about to drop her off, and Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun came on, and before I knew it, we were both singing the chorus, which was just you love moments like that. But
so good.
Daisy, awesome. I'm not. You can't escape. I'm still looking right at you.
I mean, my favorite band ever is Smashing Pumpkins, but I feel weird saying that because Billy Corgan is kind of how Billy Corgan is.
Well, and I love the Pumpkins. And we should actually talk about that. How hard is it to separate the artist from the art? Because I'm just going to throw out an example without going into detail, but Kanye just really threw me
Right.
off the bus with his persona. But when I listen to the records, I'm like, this guy is brilliant. But I just have to forget that it's Kanye. So
I think sometimes it depends. It's like, okay, so Billy Corgan, my compromise was I decided in about 2007 that I would never give him money again. And I have
Right.
stuck with that. Like, I've literally have not put a cent in that person's pocket. And like, beyond that, I mean, he also like, some of it is really artist to artist. Like,
Yeah.
like it also depends on like what they did too.
Sure.
Like, as far as I know, Billy Corgan didn't do anything worse than like, be kind of a jackass. But like, it's a good question. Okay, Swans are one where like I was a very big Swan fan for a long time. For some reason, like after the stuff that happened with that dude, I just can't. It doesn't hit me the same way.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. That's a tough question because it's really like sometimes you're kind of sitting there like while it's playing, thinking like, "Oh, this is not great," and it's like. But then again, there's other people where I mean, we can go down the list. Like pretty much everybody who's made great. Not everybody, but let's say a good like 75% of people who've made great music with influence all this did something bad.
Sure.
So
anytime I watch a biopic, I came up with a theory that just about everybody you see being portrayed in the movies has what I call the son of a bitch factor, which is they do that one thing that's just like, oh, come on, man.
I mean, it's like, I think it just depends on what it is. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things I can sort of be like, oh, you were kind of shitty, but then you apologized. And I don't know if I believe your apology, but at least you're sort of trying. I don't know. It's really strange and it's really hard because then, like, I go back and forth because, like, I really like a lot of, like, classical music too. And, like, the entire classical repertoire, you just, like, Google any of them, they all suck. They're all terrible people. And, like, so it's like, and then at the end of the day, we're all kind of shitty, but we also aren't all that shitty. So it's like, I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a complicated thing we talk about a lot because it's like, I feel like sometimes people are calling out artists, which shouldn't be above critique, of course, but it's like, man, how many like oil executives or like world leaders are doing something like an order of magnitude more horrible and we're still giving like money. They're going to take an unimaginable amount more money than like,
right. Makes sense.
In the U.S., like not to defend anybody, but it's like, sometimes I feel like because we're close to artists and emotionally wrapped up in it, it gets critiqued in a deeper way than it does when it's like on a global level or like a political or like economic level or something. Again, not excusing anything people do, but it's like, it's a complex question.
It also gets messy too when you look at ideas and like different practices that have been introduced and like whether the people who brought them over are pieces of shit and whether you should do the idea. Like, example, a lot of different schools of yoga in the West, like a lot of the people who brought like the traditions over to the US are like shitty misogynistic rapists. Like Yogi Bhajan for Kundalini yoga, like that whole world of yoga, like it's like, well, then do you just not do a yoga practice that helps you clear your mind and helps you sort of ground because this guy sucks? Like, I don't know. It's really interesting.
Like the cultural appropriation level.
Yeah, and there's cultural. So
but
like,
it's like,
it gets
should you
messy.
not do something that's healthy for you just because it's cultural appropriation? Or like,
well, yeah, it's really messy. It's messy, and then like I think monetary stuff also gets wrapped into it too, as well. Like what you were saying about like not spending money on Billy Corgan stuff. Like I feel like that's sort of something that makes sense to me too with like different ideas because like I really like the Wim Hof method, but I think I did a little Googling and I think he's like he might be like not into gay people and I'm gay as fuck, so I'm just like, oh man.
So it just gives you a big ew.
Yeah, but I like your breath work. But so it's like, spend money, but I do the breath work. I don't know. I
Oh,
don't have it either. It's
I
hard.
completely get it because I love talking to musicians. In case you hadn't noticed, I
Well,
love
it's
talking.
you're really good at this.
Well, I appreciate it.
Interviews we've ever done.
Well, probably is. It probably is. I thank you. You're both wonderful for my ego. But what I think about myself, if there's one musician I wouldn't want to speak to that I really loved his music, it's Miles Davis, because we would wind up arguing, over one thing or another. I mean, the man was misogynistic and he was abusive and what have. But my God, he was a genius. At the same time, I was just kind of like, it's challenging, and he took a lot of my money, and he still gets a little piece here and there, even though he's been gone for 30 years. His estate still gets a bit of my money. And Frank Zappa has a couple of attitudes, ever had a couple of attitudes here and there that I didn't particularly care for.
Yeah, really? I didn't know that.
I mean,
We can talk about that later.
yeah, I mean,
but
particularly egregious, but yeah, I mean, he's definitely like libertarian.
I'm not even worried about the politics, just the way he approached women, more than anything else, and I'm not standing up here trying to be, da 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 super feminist, but come on. I mean, there are ways you should treat people, for crying out loud. So
sometimes I
art,
give people slight passes for I'm like, oh, he was from the 70s and didn't know he was just out of touch, and things were socially different then, and now there's more knowledge and communication, and I wonder if he had lived longer, whether he would have gone farther left or farther right. People
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really know too much about what you're talking about. I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
we'll talk about that because even Bowie came off the rails for a hot second. He did what now?
Yeah.
So I understand completely.
I think the biggest thing though is just people want cut and dry answers for stuff like this. Like, do this, don't do this, don't support this person, support this person. It's not that easy.
No,
I think maybe the real thing is maybe just don't be an ass yourself and try your best to live your own values and your own morals, because it's we uphold all these people, all these strangers to these standards, and it's maybe we just look at ourselves too,
Yeah,
and
it's a gray world out there.
Yeah.
It's incredibly gray, and you're talking to somebody who was a police officer for 25 years. Believe me, I know gray. I've been accused of doing a lot of things that I've never done because I wore the same uniform, and that gets frustrating. Can I just be me? Can I just treat you? Can I just treat you decently so you can say I treated you decently, and we can get on with things? But you may have to be part of one of my forums in the future, because this would be a fun topic to cover, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Let me let you plug yourself shamelessly here. Tell us what's coming up and where our friends out here can find your music and what's next.
Well, so we just released the split called Adult Prom with Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends,
which is named after an event that happened in the Metro St. Louis area.
An actual adult prom that was
in Alton,
that
Illinois.
We played in. That was
in Alton. Of course, it was in Alton because that puts you near Sauget, and yeah, I got it. as we call it, the Sauget Ballet. Yeah, for those of you not paying attention, there are a lot of strip clubs around there. Just saying.
That's where Pops is.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be it, and that's a wonderful project. Where should we look for your music? Your preference? I understand with the streaming services and all that kind of stuff you want.
See us live. Come see us live, and then buy records from us and talk to us. It'd be nice to us.
Yeah.
Or yell at us. Whatever you want to do.
We're going to be all over the U.S. this next year. Our dates are always posted on our website, which is lungtheband.com. But we also have an Instagram. It's at lungtheband. We have a TikTok that we don't keep up with, so probably don't try us there, but maybe. Who knows? Maybe we'll get good at that this year. And then, then look us up on Spotify. Just type in Lung or Bandcamp, lunglung.bandcamp.com, because Lung the Band was taken, I think.
Nice. and you just wanted to be unique.
Yeah.
Here's my request. I would like a nice Bach cello concerto meddled up between you two. That would be fun.
Make that happen. I do a cover of the Prelude, and I make it weird.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do like it weird. Kate, Daisy, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me. folks
Hey,
out there,
hanging
check.
out with us.
Yeah, thanks for great.
This is great. Folks, check these guys out. Enjoy their music. Comment about it. They're going to be around. I'm going to be around. I hope to see you down the road. Come back to Chicago, please, so I can make sure I'm there this time. That would be great.
I think we're tentatively going to be there in May.
Well, I think I will be there with you.
Excellent.
I like it a lot. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks so
See ya.
much.
Thank you.